That someone was an attractive blonde woman, and I did not approach her at all. She was carrying what looked like a personal-sized pizza, and there were at least 2 or 3 times when I was trying to gun for it, and I just couldn't do it. I couldn't talk to her. And so, okay, fine. I get on the bus, and I try to find like the middle area. I'm not too close to the bathroom. I'm not too close to the front. I like it in the middle for whatever reason. Maybe it's because I have a better opportunity to not have a seatmate. And you might think that sounds a little selfish, having no seatmate. But when you do this often enough, you want to have as much space to yourself. Especially because I dealt with a lot of claustrophobia in my life, and there were moments that time coming from Dallas where I was kind of having a bit of a panic attack. So I get on the bus and I see her get on, and I think, oh, well, maybe I'll take a seat now. Maybe I'll have a seatmate now. No big deal, right? And it didn't work out like that. She ended up sitting next to this other guy. But they were within earshot, maybe no more than 4 seats in front of me. And so I could hear some of the things that they were talking about. And I wasn't trying, I was trying to eavesdrop, of course. I wasn't trying to be like creepy about it, but maybe I was being creepy about it and I didn't know about it because that's just the way that I was thinking at the time. But I ended up learning some things about the both of them while I was on the bus, and we were heading west toward Arizona. I could tell that she was foreign. I could tell that, she spoke French. She was actually on the phone at one point, had a conversation in French. And she was even having a conversation with the guy about religion and how he was apparently pretty Christian in some capacity or another. And although she didn't seem to agree, she was willing to listen to him, which was a really respectful thing for me to observe. Especially because I had been kind of overcoming this concept of staunch atheism, where it's like, oh, hey, people who are religious, you're stupid. I don't believe that anymore. But it was something I believed in my past. And in a way, because she was more in alignment with my own thoughts, I was like, yeah, maybe I'll have a chance or something. It's ridiculous thinking. But it's not to say that, it's not to say that it's not entirely ridiculous. It's like Lloyd Christmas. So you're telling me there's a chance. Well, we get off in Flagstaff, and there's a bit of a layover. And again, like I said, I'm thinking I'm heading to Vegas. But at one point, she gets up, and she starts getting her stuff. And she's about to leave. And so I say, what, are you just going to leave us here? And I cannot tell you how much I don't regret saying that sentence. Because she stuck around, and we ended up talking for a little while, but she needed to go because she needed to get to her hostel because she was going to the Grand Canyon the next day. And I was like, that sounds awesome, and I'm pretty sure she invited me along. I was thinking about going to the Grand Canyon, but I was like, I don't even know how I would go about it. Screw it, I'll just go to Vegas and, deal with it later, whatever. So we pack up our stuff after talking for a little bit at the station before the layover is even finished, and she kind of has an idea of where the hostel's located. She doesn't have an exact geographical knowledge in comparison, but she's got kind of an idea, maps and stuff. And so we're walking and we're talking, and this is probably one of the most pleasant conversations I've ever had with anybody in my life. To this day, it was still one of the best conversations, and I don't remember what it was about. I just remember how I felt. I felt like I had met some kind of kindred spirit. And it extended on into the night. We got to the hostel, And it was kind of sketchy at first, to be honest, because she's like, oh yeah, the key's in a van and we got to get the key to open it up the door or whatever. And then, there wasn't like, I didn't have a room. And, I'd seen the movie Hostel some years ago. I'd never gone to a hostel at this point. And apparently there's like only 2 beds available and it's in a girl's room. And I don't know what's going to happen. But after a brief period of this weird uncertainty, she just kind of put my mind at ease, and we were sitting in sort of the common area, the living room like place in the hostel, and we talked for probably a good solid 3 hours. We talked until pretty late into the morning, like maybe 3 a.m. late, as it were. And in the process of that, we even booked a place in Vegas. And I was like, I will be paying you money so that we can do this. And it ended up relatively cheap, to be honest, too, which was nice. So we finally, it's time to go to bed. And I'm freaking the hell out. I'm in a room with 2 girls. Other than her, so 3 girls. But 2 girls that were already asleep that don't know I'm there. I am getting 0 sleep. It's whatever sleep I got was restless sleep. Get up. I got out of there quickly, took a shower, came back. They apparently had woken up, but meandered about the place. I still hadn't paid for a room, by the way. And I got my stuff and I just pulled it out of there as quickly as possible. I just did not want to get caught in a situation like this. And I didn't know what was going to happen. For all I knew, all of this shit was fucking illegal. It was stressful, to say the very least. But incidentally, all that stress just melted away when I ended up talking to the guy who ran the place, and he's like, yeah, no big deal. Just pay whatever. I think it was $20. All right. That's awesome. And he even let us keep our stuff there throughout the day, so we didn't have to worry about paying bag fees or anything while we went to the Grand Canyon. And I was like, this is awesome. So we end up booking a trip to the Grand Canyon. And that may sound weird, but that's pretty much how it goes if you're not driving, because it's at least an hour drive into Grand Canyon National Park. And so we kind of book sort of this touristy type thing, but really it's just transportation there and back. And it was $50 round trip, I think, for both of us. I don't know if it was combined or something along those lines. It didn't matter because we were just going to do it. And it was like, hey, we're going to go to the Grand Canyon. That's awesome. Just as an FYI, as I get into this story, if you're going to go before late fall so you can get up to the North Rim, and bring plenty of, bring a small backpack or something with water and some snacks and stuff, because you're going to want it. The amount of exercise you end up putting yourself through is a lot more than you think. So we get there, we walking down into the canyon, and we maybe only walked a total distance, the zigzagginess of the distance, about a mile and a half. And then it was okay, let's go back up. And there's actually signs that say, if you walk all the way down, don't come back up the same day. Don't attempt to go all the way down into the bottom of the canyon and then come back up. You'll die of exhaustion, essentially. It's huge. There's a reason why it's called the Grand Canyon. If you took the donkeys down there, no big deal. We're taking all sorts of photos and stuff, and she's I look at it now with some of the things that I've been told and I've learned, especially in my acting classes. She exhibited a trait, and the only thing that I can say is that she was alive. She was there as an individual who was appreciating life and allowed herself to express that through her actions and weird and crazy body movements. And I look back on it now, and I'm totally envious of people like that. I'm working on doing that. But I look back on that, and she's just one example in so many others that make me realize how much work I've got as a person to deal with, to make me the person that I want to become. Now, I wasn't aware of it at the time. I was almost embarrassed. And I think maybe here's a little nugget of life lessons or something. If people are doing something, especially in public, that's harmless, and you feel embarrassment, chances are they're doing the right thing. If they're singing, they're dancing, if they're just being goofy, if you feel a twinge of embarrassment, learn how to do it. You will only have a better life when you do. Okay, so life lesson over. Time to get back to the story and less overall seriousness. So we got some good photos and the like, and she still owes me those photos at some point. It's been like 6 years. Probably won't be getting them, but whatever. We're friends on Facebook, so that helps. I just, have to like drill it into her somehow. So when we started going back up, I didn't really realize how bad physical shape I was in until it got to about halfway up, when I needed to take a break because I was running out of breath. I just could not breathe. It's cold air, it's dry air. She's just sauntering up this place like it's no big deal. I'm taking my jacket off because I'm sweating. I got to put it back on because it's cold. The closer and closer we got to the top, the more and more times I had to stop and take a breath. And it's just ridiculous how out of shape I was, and still am. I've lost some weight, which is good. 20 pounds now. So we finish that trek. It's like dark by the time our ride comes back. And we head back to go to the hostel and then to walk back to the Greyhound station. And we're both going to go to Vegas because we got that hotel set up. It's pretty late by the time we get there to the Greyhound station. And, we get on the bus. And the thing is that I didn't realize this when it happened until after. But when we got on the bus, she wanted to sit across from me in the aisle. And I was like, hey, why don't you sit behind me or something like that? And I was thinking, with that physical proximity, it would be easier to talk to her. And I was really, really wrong. Because then there were people who ended up sitting across the aisle from her, and she ended up talking to those people. And so I was mostly just by myself this whole time. Me being an extrovert, that kills me. Especially when I find somebody I click with. We make it into Vegas. I'm a little despondent, of course. And it's pretty early in the morning. She ends up, I think, having to take a bathroom break or something. Just FYI, I never ended up taking a shit on the Greyhound bus at all. In the approximate month that I used to traverse the US, I never took a dump in the bus. Only either at like McDonald's or other restaurants or at the actual stations themselves. I was proud of that. So we get to, like I said, we're in Vegas. Apparently some homeless guys are like fighting over something. I don't know what. And she ends up coming back to see, I think, sort of the resolution of it, misses out. I could be wrong about that. But we get on, we make our way to the hotel. We get on the actual Vegas transit they have there, and they had like double-decker buses, which was cool. And we arrived at the street of the hotel. Here's the thing, people. Now that Uber is like a big thing, don't do that. If you're going to go to Vegas, just get an Uber and have them take you up to the front. It takes forever to get from the street to the entrance to the hotel. That big old entryway is enormous. It's like a quarter of a mile or something, depending on the place. So we walked the very long distance from the street to the establishment we were next to. It was like walking through a theme park almost, just mostly cars. And we get in there, and our room's not ready technically, because it's kind of early, but they allowed us to do an early check-in. So at that point, we get up there, and I'm a little fuzzy on the details here, but I think we kind of like took a nap We each had our own individual beds. I was hoping for a single bed, because come on. That's me. I'm pretty sure we took a bit of a nap, even if it was only for a couple hours, and we walked around Vegas and we found some tickets. There's a place called Tix for Tonight, and you can get tickets for that night at various places. And we got tickets for a show called Le Rêve, which is kind of like Cirque du Soleil, which is what we wanted, but the day of was a blackout day, so you couldn't get those tickets at all from Tix for Tonight. You can still buy the tickets, but they'd have been full price. Tix for Tonight is tickets for that night that are reduced price, which is great. And I think we ended up paying like only 70% or maybe even 50% of some tickets. Can't remember. We go to see Le Rêve later that evening after we were wandering around, and at some point, and I want to say it was during the day after, we went to Dick's Last Resort, and you know, this is where they treat you like shit on purpose. Like, the first thing was the waitress, she was like, "What the fuck do you guys want?" You know, it's like that kind of mistreatment, which I love. It was amazing. They put like dunce caps on you and they write stupid shit on there to make you feel insulted. And I love this because the one they put on her was "goes down like the Titanic." Her response was, "What, only once?" I was like, that's some solid gold comedy right there. Holy shit. It's like she only goes down once. And then that's it. I'm explaining the joke. I need to continue with my story, right? So we go see Le Rêve the first night. Well, as we're getting ready, you know, showering up and all that stuff, I got it in my head that I don't want to steal a kiss. So she's late. We're late. We're getting close to like so-called curtain call, if you will. And it's going to take a while just to get there. So we don't have a cab or anything. We're going to walk. Now, it's only like 2 hotels down. But again, the entrances to the hotels are fucking enormous. Well, she looks pretty phenomenal. I gotta be honest. And so I lean in and try to give her a kiss. Didn't work. She kind of berates me for it, but in a nice way. So I didn't take it as hard as I anticipated. We make our way there. We enjoy it. It's a beautiful show. I cry a little bit. I think we walked to the Bellagio and listened to The Ecstasy of Gold. And that was a beautiful moment. I recorded it. I definitely cried. Not like a baby or anything, of course, but it was an emotional moment. Interestingly enough, we were still able to be very candid with each other. I was able to ask her questions that I know I would have never asked anybody. And we were able to really get involved in our questions and answer. And we even went to the casino, dropped a little money on roulette, lost it, unfortunately, and that was a little depressing. We went back to our hotel and we were just kind of sitting at the little bar having a conversation. And one of the things that she had mentioned that I still forget sometimes was that she said that I'm a nice person, which is not something that I usually believe in. I don't usually think I'm a nice person. And I think it's just because I've got some big self-esteem issues. I mean, I know that I get along with people sometimes. Sometimes I don't. I think that's normal. But even now, sometimes I just don't think I'm a nice person. Even though I try to be. I want to be. And maybe that's all that's necessary. It's just like anything else. It's not about the destination. It's the journey. Maybe a nice person isn't somebody who is just definitively nice, but somebody who actively acts that way. Oftentimes I don't do it because I'm afraid. Afraid of what? I don't know. Probably rejection more than anything else. You know, we were able to have a pretty emotional conversation, and I'd never had that with anybody before. You know, we go back up to our hotel, go to sleep, get our stuff, bring it back downstairs, hand that off to the bellboys, and we kind of start our next day. and we just kind of wandered around. And I think this is pretty much when we did the Dick's Last Resort. And she went on a roller coaster. I couldn't go because I didn't have my ID. And if you're gonna go to Vegas, bring a valid ID. You're gonna need it for everything. We couldn't go into Coyote Ugly because I didn't have a valid ID. I had an ID, it just wasn't valid. It expired. Apparently, I stopped existing. I still have a big issue with that concept. We went and got some more ticks for tonight, and that time we got David Copperfield. And that was amazing. I had never seen Copperfield live. I'd seen a lot of his stuff on TV, and it was still amazing and phenomenal on TV. But it's different when it's up close and personal, because it's harder to pick out the issues. And, there's all sorts of weird stories about elevators that go sideways and stuff and I realized getting on towards the end of the show that the room that you're in is part of the stage. Don't let anybody fool you. But you know what? It doesn't matter. It was just amazing to watch. When you allow yourself to just suspend your disbelief, it ends up being a phenomenal show. There's really no reason to ruin it for anybody. We come back, we got our stuff, we head back to Greyhound, and we come into LA. And I don't really remember what happened between Vegas and LA. Probably had conversation, maybe didn't, I don't know. But we were effectively starting to drift, in a sense. And I think it was just because she was getting ready to leave, because she was going back home in less than a week. And we both ended up in a hostel in Hollywood. Okay priced, considering the area anyway. And we had already paid up front and everything. And then I got a call from my friend who was there to pick me up and take me to his place, because I had talked to him and I was going to stay with him for a week. And so I'm like, well, I couldn't get my money back, which kind of sucked. I was like, well, okay, fine. Here, just take it as a donation, I guess, because I can't get a refund. That blows. Oh well. So she and I part ways, and I make it over to his place, and I get a shower, and I talk to him for a little bit. We go eat, and he drops me off in Hollywood over by the Hollywood and Highland, because I didn't really know where I wanted to go, and he had other things he had to do. And so I'm just kind of wandering around, not really knowing what to do, just vlogging and dicking around, and it got pretty late. And I run into her again on Hollywood, which was weird. It was later in the evening. That's strange. It may not have been the same day. I think it was the next day or something like that. But I'm almost certain it was the same day though, because we got into LA at a relatively early time. It had been a long day. My phone was almost dead. I had to use her phone to contact my friend because my phone was almost dead. We couldn't get in contact with him for whatever reason. And so late enough into the evening, because she and I walked around and talked again, we even saw a little bit of the set for Gangster Squad when it was filming at the time. Now, we only saw, what you typically see in Hollywood, which is virtually nothing. You see all the extra stuff in the background. You almost never see, it's like all the setup and whatnot. You almost never see the actual scenes and cameras and the like, unless it's smaller budget things, because they usually block off areas. This is what I've learned by being in Los Angeles. And so that was interesting to at least talk about. Well, it's time for her to get back too. So it must have been the next day, because she had spent the night at some dude's place, and she didn't even stay the night at the hostel. So like me, so she had hooked up with this dude. Well, she calls him to come pick us both up so he can take me back to where I'm staying, which is super awkward at this point. It's the most awkward I think I've ever had at this point in my life. I think I've had a couple more awkward moments since then, but maybe not. Well, apparently, one of the reasons why she was calling to get him to pick me up was that he had worked for a company called Maker Studios. Now remember, this is in late 2011. Maker Studios was a thing, but not a huge thing. And it didn't have all that controversy at the time either. And you have big name people like Nice Peter and Ray William Johnson and the like who had been under them at that point, just kind of like in the starting years. And she wanted me to meet him. And I was like, okie dokie, maybe I could get a job or something. That would be neat. And so we get in the car and we start talking, and he's like, hey, do you like Nice Peter? Hey, do you like these people? And I was like, yeah, I love these people. They're so awesome. Yeah. And so I end up connecting with her booty call, which is like, whatever, man. Okay, that's cool. I get back to my friend's place. He's already asleep. I stay up for a while, whatever. And then I don't see her again